Communicating with people from all over the world has been an unexpected benefit of CTD shooting. However, it didn't take me long to figure out that the correct answer to many of their questions was dependent on the type and the use of the rifle. That led me to the precision ladder. Let me explain what that is. Welcome to Connect the Dots. Before we get started, I want to let you know that this video is in correlation to a blog that can be found on my website, ctdshooting.com. The precision ladder is simply a metaphor that compares the use and the precision of the rifle to the rungs of a ladder. In general, as we move up the ladder, the precision requirements increase. But more importantly, the ladder is used to organize and classify rifles based on their use. An important concept to keep in mind throughout this whole video: moving up the ladder does not make the rifle better. On the first rung, these are factory rifles that are fed factory ammunition. The majority of hunting and plinking rifles will fit in this category. In this example, this is my daughter's Remington Model 7, chambered in a .243. This is what Kennedy uses for Alvar deer and coyote hunting. Moving up a rung, we have the same factory rifles, but in this case, the shooter hand loads the ammunition, thus gaining precision. Most of your hunting rifles will fit in this category. In this example, this is Tom Block's Remington 700, chambered in a .30-06, which I developed a load for. Moving up another rung, we have the precision rifles. Majority of them are custom made, used for hunting and competition. In this example, this is a tack action in a Bell & Carson stock with a Krieger barrel chambered in 26 Macho. That's a round that Steve Grosvenor and I developed for deer hunting. At the top of the precision ladder is the tiny group of rifles whose sole purpose is for competition. These are 100% custom and tuned to shoot the smallest groups in the world. In this example, this is a Bat 3-lug sitting in a Kelbley stock with a jewel trigger. I have a Krieger 1-18 twist barrel chambered in 30 BR. This is the rifle that I use for my light varmint group and score tournaments. There can be some gray area between the rungs. For example, this is the first rifle that I ever bought. This is a Remington 788. I still have the factory action and the factory stock. The stock has been stripped and restained, but I bedded the action. I have a custom Krieger barrel chambered in 22-250, and I installed a Timney trigger. So I would classify this rifle as a 2+. Hi, my name is Jason Stanley with Connect the Dots. If this is the type of information that you'd like to learn about, I'm asking you to do two things: like and subscribe. Those two things will help Connect the Dots continue to grow and get better. Thanks for watching. I might be ducking for cover after this section, but here is what I would consider the average group size for these rifles. Keep in mind, this is an average of 5-shot groups shot on any day. On the first rung, 1 to 2 inches. Second rung, 1 down to 3/4 of an inch. Third rung, 0.75 down to 0.25. And the top rung, under 1/4 of an inch. Absolutely, every rifle will shoot better than that at some point, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about that single 3-shot group shot on the ideal condition that you keep in your wallet. I am talking about an average of 5-shot groups shot on any day. We can use that information to find out if our rifle is performing to the correct standards. It's very similar to a blood work test. If you go in to get your cholesterol tested, there's a certain range that it should be in. If it's above that range, there might be some issues going on. The same thing happens with these rifles. If you are consistently above these numbers, you might have a tuning issue or you might have a mechanical issue. It's simply a way of judging if your rifle is performing to the standards that it needs to. I was very hesitant to put those numbers on the video. There's so much room for gray area. You know, each person should have their own set of standards that they want to go by. Those numbers are simply a rough estimate for me to know if I and my equipment is shooting the way it's supposed to. Some days I shoot better than that. Some days I shoot worse. A lot of that has to do with the conditions that I'm in. I think it's very important for you to come up with your own set of numbers, your own set of standards that you can then use to evaluate your own shooting and your equipment. The important part of this video is not the terminology of the rungs. More importantly, it's understanding that each rung has different standards and requirements for success. You cannot take a rifle on one rung and compare it to a rifle on a different rung. They have completely different standards. Lots of examples of this, Indy versus NASCAR, you got sledgehammers versus claw hammers, but probably the best example I can think of is a football team. You have your offensive linemen, they have a certain set of skills and body shapes that they need. You got your defensive backs, different body shapes, different set of skills. Keep them in their same positions and they might be all staters. But if you switch their roles, they might not make the traveling team. The same thing happens with your rifles. My light varmint rifle up here is designed to shoot groups that start with a 0. But it's heavy, it has a 2-ounce trigger with no safety, and its tolerances are so tight that any bit of debris is going to change how it functions. This would be the last rifle that I'd want to take in the deer stand with me. Each rung has its own set of requirements. The precision ladder helps us remember that. The precision ladder gives the owner an idea of how much time it's going to take to achieve their goals. It's very similar to drag racing. It's not very difficult to make a 14-second car. However, if you want a 10-second car, that's going to take a lot more time and effort. Rifles are the same way. It's not that hard to make a first-rung rifle shoot a 2-inch group. But if you want a 1/2-inch group, that's going to take a tremendous amount of time and effort. And actually, if you truly want a 1/2-inch rifle, you might have to move up a rung or two. Not every car is a 10-second car. Not every rifle is a 1/2-inch rifle. The precision ladder helps us remember that time is valuable. Spend it wisely. Speaking of spending, the precision ladder can also help us save some money. I don't know how many times I have bought an inexpensive piece of equipment that worked fine for one rung, but when I wanted to move up the rung, I had to buy a new piece of equipment. In other words, I had to spend my money twice. The precision ladder can also help us figure out how picky we need to be with that equipment. Hundreds of examples, but a good one is resizing die. Virtually any resizing die is going to work for a level 2 rifle. But by the time you get to a level 4 rifle, you've entered the door of custom dies. Dies that are made specifically for the chamber that you are shooting. My suggestion, when you have to decide of which rung to buy for, always hedge towards the top rung or the higher rung. As the saying goes, buy once, cry once. One of the most important reasons for the precision ladder is proper communication. Whenever there's a question about shooting technique, equipment, or reloading, the correct answer almost always depends on which rung the rifle is on. If that rung is not stated, it almost always leads to frustration. Communicating on the internet is different than communicating face-to-face. When asking questions on the internet, I think there are 2 things to be mindful of. Number 1, be as brief yet specific as you can. Give as much information about your rifle and the use of the rifle in the shortest amount of space. And number 2, when you get a reply, don't argue with the people that are replying. This is especially true on competition forums. The competitors, the people replying, they're giving away information that might have cost them thousands of dollars in travel, thousands of dollars in equipment. They're giving away their secrets for free to somebody they don't even know. So if you don't agree with the answers, simply say thank you for your time or thanks for the reply. Both of those items will help lessen the frustration when asking questions on the internet. Quiz time. Here is the test rifle. This is a Defiance Tenacity medium length action sitting in a McMillan Game Warden stock. It has a Lilja number 5 contour, 1-in-9 twist barrel chambered in 6mm Remington Ackley improved. And there's a Timney trigger. This rifle is going to be used for coyotes and antelope hunting. Question number 1, which rung would you put it on? Perfect. This is a level 3 rifle. 100% custom, used for hunting. I could also use this for competition. I'd probably have to change the stock out for that. Question number 2, what size groups should I expect out of this rifle? Perfect. In between 1/4 and 3/4 of an inch. Based on the components of this rifle, the quality of the components, and the person who made it, if I'm not under 1/2 inch, then I got some issues going on. It might be human error, it might be my shooting technique, or my tuning process is off. It could be mechanical errors. Maybe I have the wrong bullet powder combination. Maybe there's something wrong with the action. But if I'm not shooting under 1/2 inch with this rifle, I got some issues that I got to figure out. Time to start increasing the difficulty. Question number 3, what resizing die would you use for this rifle? I chose to use a Redding Type S full-length bushing die. I'm not sure if Redding is the important part of that answer. I use RCBS, Redding, Forster, Harrell's. I use all sorts of dies. But the important part of this answer was the bushing part of it. The level 3 rifle, it is precise enough, it's accurate enough that it can tell the difference in neck tension. So I want to be able to control that neck tension by using a die that accepts bushings. Question number 4. Remember I said this is a Lilja number 5 contour, 1 9 twist barrel, chambered in 6mm Remington Ackley improved. Which bullet would you use? I picked Randy Robinette's bib bullets, 243 diameter, 95 grain flat based. Interesting part of this story, I was riding to the Wisconsin State Championship with Randy, and I asked a question. If you were going to have the perfect coyote bullet, what would it be? He came up with the answer of his 95 grain flat based. Everything on this rifle, the action, the chamber, the reamer, everything was based on pushing this 95 grain pill. Now, does that mean I can't get another bullet to shoot? Absolutely not. You know, I could go down to the 70 grain range, I could go up to 120 grain range, but the important piece of information here, when you're matching the bullet up with the twist rate, there are 2 pieces of that puzzle. You got bullet weight and you got bullet length. Bullet length is a bigger piece of that puzzle. I know that you're always going to see charts of bullet weight versus twist rate, but the important part is the bullet length. This bullet is based off the inch 050, so 1.050 jacket. That's the important part of that equation. As Randy would say, the weight is just along for the ride. We're almost done. Question number 5. This might be the most important question of the quiz. Is my level 3 rifle better than Tom's level 2 rifle? Absolutely, 100% no, it is not better. You cannot compare rifles that are not on the same rung. It's like comparing apples and oranges. If you're struggling with that concept, here are 2 pieces of information that might help. Number 1, you can only kill something so dead. It doesn't do you any good to kill it more. In other words, if Tom shoots a deer in the heart with his rifle, and I shoot a deer in the heart with my rifle, the same end result is going to happen. The second concept, this was one of Tom's first rifles that he bought with his own money. He bought it directly out of high school. Tom has so many memories, so many stories of hunting with this rifle. Hunting with his father, hunting with his wife, hunting with his new son-in-law. I would be a complete fool to say that my rifle is better than his. Last question, question number 6. Did the precision ladder add clarity? Did it put different rifles in perspective? I think it does. I think it shows that each rung of the ladder has different requirements, different standards for success, and then we can use that information to ask and answer questions more accurately. Until next time, enjoy the experience.